Kedon Slovis recently put his name in the transfer portal. At the time of this video, his future is undecided. He could return to USC, end up at another school, or test his luck in the NFL draft. Whatever he decides to do next, chances are he'll likely be successful. Slovis wasn't the typical USC quarterback we've grown accustomed to seeing over the years. He was a 3-star quarterback and wasn't really expected to ever start. Fast forward a few years later, and he's near the top 5 in every USC career record. Before we get to today's video, make sure to subscribe and turn on those notifications if you're new to the channel. If you're watching this video, chances are you're new here, so if you love college football, this is definitely the place for you. Also, if you could take a second and give this video a thumbs up, I would greatly appreciate it. It really helps the algorithm of the video, which helps share it with more college football fans. If you give this video a thumbs up, I guarantee that your team will win your bowl game. Now, if your team isn't in a bowl game, they'll be in one next season if you give this video a thumbs up. Kedon Slovis didn't start at quarterback until his junior year of high school. He attended Desert Mountain in Scottsdale, Arizona. Although he wasn't one of the top names in the country at the position, he had an advantage most high school quarterbacks in the country didn't have. His offensive coordinator was a former NFL legend at the quarterback position, Kurt Warner. During his junior campaign, Slovis impressed as he threw for 3,000 yards with 32 passing touchdowns. He was putting up some solid numbers, but he was still nowhere on the map. His team didn't have much talent surrounding him, as they finished 6-5 his junior season, and then they went 3-7 his senior season. Desert Mountain just wasn't an attractive draw. Jason Mons, the head coach of powerhouse and state champion Saguaro High School, got a call from Brian Ellis, USC's quarterback coach. He was discussing quarterbacks in the area, but Mons mentioned that Kedon Slovis was a name that was flying very under the radar. Ellis was shown highlights of Slovis, and he's on record saying, "Good God, who is this kid?" Ellis flew out to Arizona to watch Slovis in person, but due to the Arizona heat, the team practiced at 5 a.m., so Ellis missed the practice. He couldn't come back to watch another one due to the NCAA rules prohibiting multiple school visits in the same week, so he changed up his plans. He flew back to Los Angeles on Friday and then back to Phoenix on Sunday night. He woke up at 4 a.m. on Monday morning so he could watch Kedon Slovis throw in person. "I was really blown away. This is the one. I had been all over the country looking for quarterbacks, and there was just something about his demeanor, the look in his eye, his throwing ability, all those things that I liked a lot." After that visit, Slovis received an offer from USC. In total, Kedon Slovis only received 3 Power 5 offers. USC was able to get Slovis to visit campus later that week, and then on Saturday, Slovis publicly announced his commitment. But the guy that helped him get there wouldn't be a part of the journey. Brian Ellis, who helped Slovis commit to USC, left to join the staff of Clay Helton's brother Tyson at Western Kentucky, just weeks before Slovis officially signed with the Trojans. Ellis said he called Slovis and his dad and told them that they need to stick at USC, saying that the opportunity will present itself. Well, it turns out he was more than right. When Slovis arrived on campus, everyone at USC and throughout the country knew who the starting quarterback was going to be: JT Daniels. The former 5-star and local quarterback started 11 games for the Trojans in 2018 as a true freshman. The only question was who the backup would be. The Trojans already had Jack Sears, who started against Arizona State in place of Daniels in 2018. They also had Matt Fink, who had been in the program for 3 years up to that point. So, Slovis seemed destined to provide depth and little else. At best, he can maybe compete for the starting job once JT Daniels left. Kedon battled and competed during camp, surprising the coaching staff with how quickly he was able to pick up on the offense. Coaches said that he was able to make throws that other quarterbacks in the room couldn't make. As the season inched closer and closer, Slovis was emerging as the clear-cut number 2 option behind Daniels. Well, Kedon Slovis didn't have the backup job for that much time. In USC's first game of the 2019 season, Daniels went down with an ACL injury. His season was over. Just like that, in the first weekend of the season, it was time for Slovis to take over the reins. He completed 6 of 8 passes for 57 yards, with one of his incompletions being an interception. The following week, Kedon Slovis was named the starting quarterback for USC. The true freshman became the 13th quarterback to start a game for the Trojans this century. All 12 before him were either 4 or 5-star prospects. Slovis was the first 3-star prospect to be named a starter. Not to mention, his 24/7 sports rating of 0.8683 was by far the lowest of the entire group. But you wouldn't have known that by seeing him play. Kedon Slovis looked like a 5-star out there. He was named the 2019 Pac-12 Offensive Freshman of the Year, becoming only the 4th player in USC's history to win the award. He was also named an AP Pac-12 Newcomer of the Year and was an All Pac-12 honorable mention. For the season, he threw for 3,500 yards while completing 72% of his passes. He threw 30 touchdown passes and had a quarterback rating of 168. Unfortunately, COVID wiped out half his season in 2020. While looking at the stat sheet, his numbers looked pretty decent. He threw for just under 2,000 yards with 17 passing touchdowns. Over the course of a 13-game season, he likely would have thrown for around 4,000 yards with 40 passing touchdowns. He was all Pac-12 first team and led the Trojans to the conference title game. Although he was putting up some pretty solid numbers, there was something that was noticeably different from Slovis. He just looked off in 2020. In an article from earlier this season, Slovis admitted that he wasn't confident throwing the football last year. Near the end of his freshman season, he dealt with arm fatigue. He then suffered an injury in the Holiday Bowl. Slovis had to spend the first few months of 2020 resting his arm, and he didn't feel 100% until early March, a little more than 2 months after the injury. But because of the pandemic, it wiped out spring ball and his opportunity to work with the trainer. USC didn't return to the practice field until October, when it started training camp. And early on in the season, it looked like Slovis was struggling. He wasn't throwing spirals, he wasn't getting good air in his throws, and it seemed like he had little control over the ball and how it was coming out of his hand. The velocity and accuracy that were there in 2019 were simply gone. In the Pac-12 title game, Slovis threw 3 interceptions that ultimately cost USC the game, and he just looked awful out there. During the offseason, Slovis went to work and trained with a number of current and former college quarterbacks. He got healthy and regained his confidence. He worked on some mechanical issues and was slowly regaining form from his freshman season. But unfortunately for Slovis, the 2021 season was an absolute disaster. After a win to begin the season, USC lost to Stanford in week 2. A team that they should have beaten by a lot, they lost to at home. Slovis only threw for 200 yards with a touchdown and an interception. Shortly after the loss, USC parted ways with head coach Clay Helton. The following week against Washington State, Slovis suffered a neck strain on the first drive and was done for the day. He was replaced by true freshman Jackson Dart, who threw for 400 yards with 4 touchdowns in the come-from-behind win. Dart also suffered an injury that game, which put to rest any thoughts of a quarterback battle between him and Slovis. He didn't return the following week against Oregon State, but he threw 3 interceptions while completing only 60% of his passes. Over the next 2 games, Kedon Slovis actually played pretty well, throwing for nearly 700 yards with 5 passing touchdowns. However, USC employed a 2-quarterback system once Jackson Dart returned at the end of October, and that lasted for 2 games. Slovis started against Arizona State, but injured his hamstring. So, Jackson Dart started the final 3 games of the season. Once you saw USC fully commit to Dart as their starting quarterback, you knew that it appeared Slovis' time at USC would likely be coming to an end. Slovis finished the year with 2,100 passing yards to go along with 11 passing touchdowns and 8 interceptions. This week, he announced that he'd be entering the transfer portal. Slovis leaves USC 7th all-time in passing yards, 5th all-time in passing touchdowns, and 6th all-time in completions. Not too bad for a former 3-star recruit who wasn't expected to potentially ever start. It's also not bad considering 2020 was half a season and he went back and forth as the starter in 2021. So hopefully Kedon Slovis is able to transfer to a good program in 2022 and he's able to excel there. After starting the season as one of the top quarterbacks for the 2022 NFL draft class, things just didn't go according to plan for Slovis. But if he's able to turn things around in 2022, he very well could potentially be one of the top quarterbacks taken in the 2023 NFL draft. Well, that wraps up today's video. Drop a comment down below and let me know what your thoughts are on Kedon Slovis' journey and what do you think might be next for him. If you haven't done so yet, there's still plenty of time to smash that subscribe button and smash that like button as well. It only takes 2 seconds to do both and you won't regret it. Again, if you guys love college football content, then this is definitely the place for you. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video.